October 6, 2020. 27 more days till Election Day. I hope you all have either received or mailed out your mail-in ballot or intend to vote once early voting begins on October 19th. Now, the City of Fort Lauderdale will continue to be hosting its meetings in a virtual format until further notice. The public can listen to and view virtual meetings at fortlauderdale.gov/FLTV and on youtube.com/City of Fort Lauderdale, as well as on Comcast Channel 78 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. For those who want to speak on an agenda item and have not already signed up to do so, please visit www.fortlauderdale.gov/VC, that's Victor C meetings, to sign up. To help ensure the same decorum as our in-person meetings, we ask that you please abide by the following requirements. 1, please refrain from any behavior that is disruptive, distractive, profane, or inhibits the meeting in any way. 2, while you are on the phone waiting for your opportunity to speak, please mute the broadcast on FLTV, YouTube, Comcast, or AT&T if you are watching simultaneously to avoid delays with the broadcast. I will call upon you when it is your turn to speak and also notify you when your time has expired. City staff has automatically added speakers in the listen-only mode, and you will be unmuted to speak when recognized. Once you have completed speaking, you will be muted and may either hang up to exit the meeting or stay connected to listen to the remainder of the meeting. All right. Having said that, let us begin the meeting. So let us begin the meeting by starting with communications. We have 2 communications. One from the Fire Bond Facilities Bond Issue Blue Ribbon Committee. There was a motion made to advance the above communication, which is that the Fire Bond Committee has sent a letter to this commission back in February of 2020, in reference to fire impact fees on new construction in the downtown Fort Lauderdale area. The previous letter was received and reviewed by the committee. It was agreed that the letter should be revised and sent to the commission for review. If you keep going in their exhibit, they submit that letter. Does anyone have any questions with regard to the letter that was submitted by the Fire Bond Committee?
I do, Mayor.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to know from Chris, so it looks like they have proposed for several years now a fire rescue impact fee. So has any attention been paid to that or consideration, Chris? Where are we with that?
Yeah, so good afternoon. I'm gonna have to figure out how this microphone works too. So yeah, we've looked at it, and we've looked at it since this communication has come out. I think a lot of what an impact fee would do is covered by the current fire assessment. But in working with our finance director, she and I are going to explore it in some detail. And if that requires doing a study or kicking that review off, we'll take it from here.
Okay, great. And especially, they seem to be taking a little bit of a proactive look at future pockets of development along certain corridors in the city where I guess they're anticipating a little bit more of a need in terms of these EMS substations. And so as long as everyone's looking at it, that's great. Thanks.
Does anyone else have any questions? So let me follow up with that. I think that it's important that because we are building new EMS stations and fire stations, fire impact fees are going to be important because they'll help to defray costs that are going to be associated with the construction and operation of these facilities. So I think that's what the committee is asking. Are we going to be able to move forward with such an impact fee in order to help reduce the impact on the community going forward by assessing developers' future developments that will be occurring along the federal highway corridor? Any thoughts?
No, I think that absolutely it's worth taking a look at. And any of those impact fees, start with an impact fee study. And in working with our finance director, she'll take the lead in performing that study. And if there's one that's, if there's a fire impact fee that we can add that we don't currently have that does address some of that development in the downtown and certain corridors, I certainly think it's worth doing.
So Alan, how would that be approached? Does that require a referendum? Does that require?
No, not on the impact fees, but as the city manager indicated, we need to, because my understanding is that those proposed development or anticipated development are taken into the calculations for the assessment. So we have to be careful that any impact fees that we do or may choose to impose doesn't throw off that calculation. So, and then again, with the Florida legislature's amendment a year and a half ago, I guess, we're limited as to where we can use those impact fees. So they have to be directly correlated to that particular development. So we'll have to look at that and see if we can come up with the mechanism.
Well, it behooves us to do that sooner than later because, you know, development continues to materialize in our community, and it would be great.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yeah.
Where did this communication come from?
What's that?
Where did this communication come from?
From the fire bond committee.
Okay. Thank you.
So, I mean, it would behoove us to want to move on that sooner than later because as new developments continue to materialize in our city, it would be a great way to capture some of that impact fee money so we can help reduce the impact on the cost to the community. Yes.
As we move on, let me see if I can scan the list here and see if I can spot Susan Grant on the call. Susan, are you?
Yes.
Great. Could you, there you are. Could you join us and just give us your perspective on impact fees and what the process would look like going forward from here?
And Chris, I think you had said, you know, the most important thing we need to do is get started on a study that will help us determine what an appropriate amount would be and who would be assessed an impact fee and when it would start and when it would be effective. And we'll get working on that over the next couple of weeks as far as getting a firm on board to start that study. And, you know, the process would be ordinances to adopt those. And Alan could speak to what that is. Not, I think we talked about that earlier. So any question? And a lot of municipalities do have fire impact fees already. So there'll probably be some good models that we can look to when we're putting together what we would like to do.
All right, great. Any questions of Susan? Okay, thank you so much. Move on to the next communication from Planning and Zoning. This is a very long communication, but it basically, they want to understand the process of the city's infrastructure capacity analysis and how it relates to the quality of the city's waterways. Is there anyone on the line that's from the Planning and Zoning Board? Catherine Moss or Mary Fertig, Chair and Vice Chair?
I
Okay.
did not see anybody, but we've had more attendees log in since I checked, but still not anybody from that committee. I'll defer to the city attorney on any comment related to this item.
And Mayor, I did have a comment also on this.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. No, I think that something like this did actually come before us at a conference meeting last year, where the Planning and Zoning Board was looking to have some presentations made to them. It might have even been on infrastructure or another plan. I can't remember exactly if it was the same item. But I think as the planning board, if they want to get a presentation, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it's to gain further knowledge or just understand what maybe one department is doing, especially as how it might relate to what they need to look at in terms of their water and sewer capacity letters that they get for backup. I don't personally see the harm in it. It looks like they're just seeking knowledge.
Well, this is, you're right, this came up once before, and I think Mr. Boileau had opined that, it isn't customary to just give presentations to the Planning and Zoning Board on policy issues. Their responsibility is simply to sit in a quasi judicial capacity to review applications submitted by individual proponents. Again, this is not the same thing that was previously asked. What was previously asked, I believe, was a need for a presentation on the overall downtown master plan. And that's how that discussion and it was initiated. In the meantime, I'm not quite sure I understand what's being asked here as far as infrastructure capacity and how it relates to the waterways. So, because we have had discussions regarding, how we're going to try to move forward proactively and clean up our waterways, but infrastructure capacity usually means the plant itself, correct? Or are we talking about capacity for the sewer mains and the water mains and things like that? I don't, because usually when we say capacity, it means what is the capacity at the water treatment plant and what's the capacity at the sewage treatment plant? And I think we've already had those analyses done. Chris, do you have any response to this? No?
Don't immediately, and I'm looking to see if any of our staff members that were at that meeting that could help us interpret the communication are on the call. Maybe I'll look to the city attorney and see if Mr. Spence might weigh in. He was at the meeting and can maybe help clarify exactly what they were asking.
If he has anything to add, he's certainly welcome to do so. I know we had some discussions on it, and we were a little puzzled about the waterways aspect to the quality of the city's waterways that seemed to deal with water quality. At least that's how we interpret it. And we were just questioning as to what the P&Z's role was with regards to water quality. So there was a lack of understanding from our part as to what this would relate to.
So maybe if Dwayne's there, and then I'll also look to Anthony to see if he has anything to weigh in on behalf of his staff in the Sustainable Development Department.
Good afternoon, Commission, City Manager, City Attorney. The discussion came after a meeting where the board considered a project and based on staff's capacity letter, they had the understanding that the capacity of the system there was sufficient capacity for the project at hand. So they were a bit confused as to why the capacity letter suggests that there's capacity when they have anecdotal information to the contrary. So the question that, and the thing that we've addressed the last time they forwarded this communication was that direct evidence as to the capacity of the system has to be presented in order for them to deny a project on that basis. And our concern with them hearing a presentation on the overall capacity of the system is that they would use that in a quasi-judicial setting to deny projects where evidence of that is not presented at that particular hearing. So that's generally the background. It's they're trying to reconcile the anecdotal information that they seem to have with regards to the capacity of the system versus the information that they are receiving in the quasi-judicial hearing that does not provide them with the basis for denying developments.
So is there a commission response that we can give today, or is this just to, I'm not sure what we're being asked to do right now.
I think certainly, Mayor, to the extent that Mr. Spence alluded to the fact that they had an issue before them, presumably that they voted upon already, that the issue came up. The presentation obviously could be provided to them to the extent it pertains to an item before them. So if that issue comes back up, staff, can be ready to provide them with that information, so it's presented within the quasi-judicial setting rather than just generally out of out
Right.
of the scope of any items.
But I mean, every time a proponent, an applicant comes up and says, okay, I want this project to be built, and we get a capacity letter as part of the application. But are they looking for more than that? Usually the capacity letter shows the
Right, they
general.
want more than a capacity letter. They want, I guess they're trying to, I don't know, not challenge is the wrong word, but I guess they're trying to perhaps check the veracity of what staff's presenting to them with further analysis, but without specifics, obviously I can't speak to them, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is Dwayne again. I believe you're correct in that. And I don't necessarily have an issue with them gaining clarity from staff. I think that was attempted through a memorandum, and maybe they want to, if there can be, if some clarity could be provided by staff with regards to how the calculations for the capacity letters are generated. But we would have to advise them when items come forward that they can't introduce that information into these quasi-judicial hearings for individual projects. So I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to them getting clarity about the capacity letters and how they're generated and the figures come together, but with that admonition that, the overall idea of the city's capacity can't be introduced absent someone introducing that in the quasi-judicial hearing setting.
Well, I mean, with that, so if the question is asked by a member of the board, what's the overall capacity that remains in, say, the George Lohmeyer treatment plant? That wouldn't prejudice either side, would it? I mean,
No.
introducing it by just introducing it from the city's perspective would not put the city or the applicant at risk. So why don't we just allow that information to come into the record? That wouldn't hurt us, would it?
well, I think what Mr. Spence was alluding to is
Wait, speak up.
if you have it, I think what Mr. Spence was alluding to is if you have it in a general setting, not attached to a particular item. So let's say staff comes up and gives a presentation and the board goes back and forth with regards to questioning. Typically in a quasi-judicial setting, if the applicant doesn't agree with what staff is saying, or the question, wants to speak on the question being raised, they lose that opportunity. So if the board garners this information from their interaction with staff and apply that to a hearing in the future, that applicant has no ability to really know that they're applying from facts from before and don't have the opportunity to cross-examine. It's cleaner to have it within the setting that's before them in their quasi-judicial capacity. But if the commission's comfortable with them having it, that's fine. It's just our caution that it may raise to a level of some procedural due process issues.
Okay. Well, anything we can do to assist the members of the board to put in context what specific capacity letter is based on, I think that only helps the situation. And I think that should be a practice every time a capacity letter is issued, that maybe within the capacity letter itself, it can say, we have the capacity for 100X, and this particular applicant is seeking use of 0.002X or something. That might give context to it, so people can feel more comfortable in knowing whether there is sufficient capacity. I remember when I was sitting as a commissioner, I often questioned the capacity letters because they seemed to inch closer and closer to total capacity, and there was never really a contextual briefing given to the commission as to how that would impact the treatment plant if we're getting that close to total capacity. So anything that what does the rest of the commission feel? I think anything that helps the P&Z board in making its decisions is something we should be in favor of. Does anyone else have another opinion?
Yeah, Mayor.
Yes.
Ben, yeah, so I think it'd be helpful if the next time a capacity letter was issued to a project that comes before the P&Z, that staff would be there and explain, here's how we come to the capacity letter determination. Here are the factors that goes into it, the formula, and so forth. And here's how ultimately we come to what you see in front of you on this capacity letter. Then going forward, when the next capacity letter comes forward with a different project, staff says, as we've talked about previously, we have formulas and process to determine the capacity. We're happy to revisit that process and those formulas if you have any questions, and if there are new members who aren't familiar with our formulaic approach. If not, we're happy to just be here for questions. So I think that should just be a regularly revisited.
I agree with you. All right. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, that's it. Thank you. Let's move on to commission reports. Commissioner Moritas, do you have anything to report today?
I do. I have 4 items.
Congratulations on your op-ed piece in the newspaper this week.
Oh, thank you.
Great,
Thank you,
very
Mayor.
interesting
Appreciate
commentary.
that. And on that note, I did want to give a shout out to Phil, our Parks and Recs, for organizing our 4 e-learning sites. I did mention those in the op-ed, and I'm appreciative of his work. And I know Zoe helped also. She was able to secure $56,000 in funding from the United Way to help pay for these e-learning sites, the pods, you could also call them, that we have. So thank you, staff. You all did a great job on that. Next, I wanted to go into good news. We're going to play some football at Inter Miami. We are all super excited. Our first game is October 29th at 7 p.m. There will be 4 games according to the schedule that was given to us from Broward County Public Schools. We're working on the details right now to make sure all contractual things are worked out. But I was hoping we could do something, I don't know, as a city. I know we can't bring a lot of people out there, but should we do a ribbon cutting? It's Fort Lauderdale High School and Dillard High School, 7 o'clock at Lockhart Stadium. So what do you all think about that?
So the first games that are going to be played are going to be intramural within the high schools?
Varsity, so
Varsity.
remember, Fort Lauderdale High School and Stranahan High School, Lockhart Stadium is their home field. So
Right.
they play their home games there. Their home games will start. It's an abbreviated season, so it's only October 29th to December 4th. I think there's only 4 games this year, but I think it's pretty historic and exciting. And I'd like to do something a little small, Mayor, maybe if you could say something, or I don't know. What do y'all think?
When is this again?
When?
When is the first game?
Yeah, the first game is October 29th at 7 o'clock. And it is at the Lockhart Stadium. And I know Phil and Zoe have been working with Broward County Public Schools with Sean, Sarah. I've been communicating with School Board Member Brinkworth. I'd like her to be out there as well, because I know she and Mary Ferdig really did a lot to push for it. We should also invite Mary, by the way. But I don't know. I know we have to have a limited number of guests there, but I know the private schools are allowing maybe, I think, 2 football tickets per student. So I don't know, maybe.
Anyway, right? So,
So I think we should do something. It's pretty historic, the new stadium. So let's think about it. And I know our staff will work out all the details between now and October 29th. So I'm very thankful for Alan and Chris and all the good work they're going to do to make this happen. And so I hope you all will be there.
So that's a Thursday night.
Thursday night at 7. So hopefully
It
you all.
also happens to be your husband's birthday.
I know, he's turning 50 that night, and he played football for Fort Lauderdale High School.
Do we
And
have to have a ribbon cutting for him too?
Well, I don't know. We might have we are both going. We both said there's no better place we'd like to be than at this new stadium for his 50th birthday. So we'll be there.
All right, sounds like a good idea.
So, okay, so that being said, I have a couple times referred to the stadium by the name of Lockhart Stadium. It has come to my attention recently that it is not called Lockhart Stadium, actually, and it may be something that was overlooked in the comprehensive agreement. It was my understanding, and I don't know what y'all's recollection is, so help me out on this if you remember us discussing this as a commission, or Chris, maybe if you remember, and maybe it doesn't really matter because it's already done. I thought we were naming the smaller stadium Lockhart Stadium to preserve that piece of history, and the small stadium being where the football teams would have their home games.
What do you think it's now?
It's not named that. Inter Miami actually received a sponsorship to name that stadium something else. So I just wonder, I do have the Lockhart family coming in town in a couple weeks, and we are going to give them a tour, and they did bring up the fact, they asked me if it was named that. I said yes, and I checked, and then I have to go back and say maybe it's not. So what do we do? How do we keep the name Lockhart out there? I think it's important. Do we just call the whole property like Lockhart Field, you know, Lockhart something? I don't know. Maybe it's blank at Lockhart Field. Maybe it's everything's at Lockhart Field. I don't know. It needs to be in there.
So,
Heather,
Commissioner, I'll start as this discussion happens. I do recall a discussion about having the smaller stadium continue with the Lockhart name, and I don't think that that's misunderstood on your part. I do remember those conversations occurring. Whether or not it's memorialized in the comprehensive agreement or not, the city attorney is shaking his head that it's probably not memorialized there. But I think we need to work with them to maintain that Lockhart name in some capacity on that smaller stadium. So I'd be willing to take the lead and try to figure that out and bring back some options for the commission to consider. But I do believe it's important that that Lockhart name remain attached to the smaller, what we call a high school field.
Right. What are your thoughts? Anybody else have some thoughts on that? I believe it's already been named.
I never thought it was going to be named anything but Lockhart. So let's let Chris follow. I think that we should never have allowed that to happen.
Okay, so we'll let Chris, Ben, what are your thoughts?
I thought it was always like that the suffix was at Lockhart. Like we're allowing them to call it like the big stadium, Inter Miami Stadium or whatever, Inter Miami Field at Lockhart, and the training facility at Lockhart, and the whatever the high school name would be at Lockhart. Does that work, or is that?
Well, we were very clear that obviously they had the right to name the large stadium whatever they wanted, because they wanted to get naming opportunities for that, and there's money involved in that. They did get an offer to name the smaller one a name, and I believe that may have already happened. But so maybe Chris, you can work on something. I don't know if it's 3 years down the road when that deal is over that they made. I don't know if we're okay as a commission with just the whole complex being called Lockhart and it's blank at Lockhart, blank at Lockhart, blank. I don't know. I'm just getting some advice. Steve, you have any thoughts?
Isn't it? I thought it was called Lockhart Park, and everything would be something at Lockhart Park. It's not Lockhart Park.
No.
Well, let's let Chris follow through on
All right.
this and make contact with the Inter Miami folks and see what can be worked out. Just shooting in the dark like this is not getting us anywhere. So I think your message is well taken, Commissioner, and I think let's assign Chris to follow through on that and see what we can get.
Okay,
All right.
so super. So you guys are okay, kind of either direction. Okay, thank you. So that's the game. So I attended Tobacco Free Broward County. They gave the City of Fort Lauderdale award because we raised the age to 21 to sell tobacco. So thank you, commissioners. Do we want to support any resolution? Again, we are doing a vaping resolution. Do we want to include any language in there saying we would support any legislation which would allow cities to ban smoking on our beaches? It almost made it last year. There is a feeling that this legislation could pass this year. So I would be in favor of really trying to push the legislature to allow us to have control of smoking on our beaches. Do we want it? Can we include that in a resolution? I mean, do you guys support that? Do we just
I
want to do it?
support it. Absolutely.
So what exactly you're asking? You want the commission to pass a resolution to send to the legislature in supporting any kind of statute that would prohibit smoking on the beach? Is that what you're saying?
Just giving the cities control to regulate it. So just give all the cities in Florida the ability to ban it or not ban it, but just give us the control. I think
So what we can
that's
do-
what would.
Later this year, as we put together our legislative agenda that we will transmit then to our lobbyists for next year, we could just add that to it. So I don't think it needs its own independent resolution. We'll just add it to our legislative agenda.
Would it have more of an impact
Okay,
if
so
you had a formal resolution as opposed to just a
It would-
laundry list of things that our lobbyists is being asked
Well,
to support?
Yeah, I mean, it would stand alone as
Right.
opposed to being part of a list of things.
And
So
what is-
we have already started drafting one at the request of Commissioner Moritas. And the mayor had asked me to look into some issues with regards to the beach as well. So we have one partially drafted. So we may be able to, we were trying to combine the vaping message as well as the particular message here to the legislature. We might have to do two separate ones. It may fit better if we do that. But we started working on that if you want.
Okay.
We'll bring it back.
Does the rest of the commission have any objection to that?
No, good idea. I think most of the cleanup that the beach sweeps have are always cigarette butts. So yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. They are, and a resolution is good because we can also share that with other cities and they can also adopt it. And we do that a lot through the Broward League of Cities. So that being said, there is a Broward League of Cities at the board meeting last week. There's an education campaign that they're asking us to share. There's a little bit of controversial, is it advocacy or is it education? Of course, when Broward League of Cities members presented it to us at the league, they said it was just education. But Alan, what do you think about us as a commission sharing this educational campaign? I mean, we have stuff to share with you all to retweet. It's about the amendment, the charter amendment that says Broward County can't preempt the cities on their transportation projects. They have to get some approval by us.
Well, I don't know if you've all been privy to the materials. They sent out a lot of, and I have copies of it here, but they sent out a lot of marketing material that's pretty aggressive. And as you know, from when we went through the bonding with parks and police, that we cannot advocate, particularly within 30 days of the election. It has to be purely educational. And actually, since that bonding issue that we went through and the opinion I provided back then, there was a subsequent decision by the 4th District Court of Appeals in January of this year, talking and providing a functional equivalent test versus the express test as before. So before it was easy. If it said vote for this, don't vote for this, obviously it was bad. If it didn't say that, you were okay. Now there's a functional equivalency test where if you look at it and essentially the message is one way or the other, it's advocacy. And again, I can't really show on camera, but it's this big uncover campaign. It looks very nefarious. They have this big stamp uncover, and then the hashtag our community, our choice. It's very suggestive as to what you should do here with regards to, and they have all kinds of file folder uncover what the county's trying to do kind of thing.
This is with regard to Amendment 2.
Yeah, Amendment 2. So it's very aggressive. I mean, it doesn't preclude us from putting out a message or educating the public on it. I just don't know if using these particular materials is worth the risk. And it is a risk. And I'll just say, this is just my counsel, but there's two components because it's by Florida statute, these restrictions. So there's an ethical component to it. So it's not just that the city can't expend any funds. You all as individuals can opine on this.
Right.
You're free to do that. But in using any city resources, staff time, anything like that, that's where the prohibition comes in. And the reason I bring it up is because it's not just on behalf of the city, but it's you individual commissioners and mayor, where you have an ethical issue there if for some reason it's found to be advocacy. Again, particularly within 30 days of the election and deemed electioneering conduct. So we can certainly put out a message. Again, you can use these materials. I would just caution against it because they're highly suggestive. I think some of the cities have started using them, and I think they got a little bit of feedback with regards to, this is just, you're just asking us to vote no type thing. So I think most reasonable minds that look at it, most of it, it seems very suggestive as to what you should do. So it's up to you all whether you want the city to proceed. That's just my cautionary note. I know an opinion, Jamie Cole on behalf of Weston, as you know, there's the lawsuit that's been filed against Broward County. They're taking an aggressive approach on this as well. He had opined, as I have, although he considers it a low risk. So, but there's a risk nonetheless. So it depends individually as to what type of risk you want to take in that regard, if you deem there is one. And I can circulate these materials to you. I've printed out one set because there's quite a bit, but we can make them available to you if you want to review them before making a decision.
Okay, thanks, Alan. So we are allowed to do it on our own time. We're allowed to tweet some of these materials, right? We won't, where you think.
Yes, as long as you're not using city staff or anybody else to do that.
As
But
long as it's
you're
not on
allowed
your
to
city
opine.
Twitter
Yeah.
account.
Okay, so I'll use my Twitter account and I can share it personally and I won't ask staff to do it.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Correct.
Thank you. That's it for me.
All right, great. Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Couple of activities in the last, since our last meeting. I did participate in the artist selection panel for the Andrews Avenue Bridge, and I believe we're going to get a presentation on that. I have been meeting with a lot of the Eastern Corridor, Las Olas Isles folks with regards to the Las Olas Mobility Working Group, some issues there, and we'll talk about that more as time goes on. I had a very good meeting with the Education Advisory Board on September 17th. A lot of good input about Bennett Elementary School, and that was an excellent meeting. Our Education Advisory Board is very passionate and engaged, and it was great to join them. On the 21st, I did attend the Progresso Village Civic Association meeting, saw some presentations, and again, enjoyed the time with that group. 22nd, I met with the South Middle River Civic Association. I wanted to commend staff on the 23rd. I thought that the King Tides Town Hall was really done. So thank you, Raj. Thank you, Dr. Nancy Gassman. I thought that was a very informative presentation and a lot of people did really appreciate that. I was able to hop on a call and enjoyed Commissioner Sorensen and FDOT doing the Tunnel Top Plaza public virtual meeting on the 24th. Thank you for that. For all those that observed Yom Kippur, I hope you had an easy fast. That happened to also be Celia Gislison's birthday. So happy belated birthday to Celia on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. So good for you. Thursday, October 1, again, met with Las Olas Isles folks on the Corradino and the Corradino group also. Got a chance to participate a little bit on the Chamber of Commerce's Salute to Business on the 1st. That was a very interesting platform they used. I think it was called Remo. I had never used Remo before, but very interactive. It was kind of an interesting platform to have that meeting. Upcoming tomorrow night, 5 neighborhoods along the 13th Street corridor in downtown in District 2 will be having a joint meeting. And then also I'll be hopping over to the Victoria Park Civic Association meeting after that. Have a International Swimming Hall of Fame board meeting on the 13th. I'll also be speaking at the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Association meetings on the 13th. There'll be a groundbreaking in Lake Ridge on October 14th, the Lineo group at 2 o'clock. That evening, I'll also be going to the Sailboat Bend Civic Association meeting. On the next day, the 15th, the Lake Ridge Civic Association meeting, and on the 19th, the Progresso Village Civic Association meeting. Just a few comments. I wanted to thank Chief Dietrich and Assistant Chief Sousa for joining our pre-agenda District 2 meeting last evening. As most of you know, there was a homicide on the beach recently. So there was a lot of concern at our pre-agenda meeting, and they were able to update us with regards to action that's happening with regards to the police department. I don't have to remind everyone that this is just not a residential area in a neighborhood, but also our economic engine for the city and arguably for the whole county. So we can't have folks thinking that it's not safe to be on the beach. And I know that a lot of the residents there are asking for an increased police presence so that people feel safe on the beach. Chris, I know that I've spoken to you and you've given us an update. We expect the Parks Bond manager to get going soon. Is that true?
That is true. They're actually already engaged and working with our park staff. So that's ongoing now.
Okay, good. And Anthony was also able to let me know that we are hopefully going to get started soon on the Central Beach Master Plan and public outreach. Chris, with regards to the CRA Business Investment Program, are we going to get an update on that in terms of applications and payments, and just to know, to see some sort of memo or report, who applied, who completed the application, who was approved for funding, you know, maybe how many had an incomplete report, how much was distributed. Are we going to get that kind of a report?
So a couple things I can respond on that topic. Yeah, yes, we can put that kind of a report together for you that is more statistical in nature, that it'll say how many and how much. I can also let you know that there's 2 other projects afoot in Broward County right now that we're participating in the discussion of both of them, as to how we as a city collectively with the other 30 cities in Broward County work either in a systematic plan that we're all doing the same thing to get dollars into these. It might be something that we could do like Seminole County and outsource to Ernst & Young to manage on the different cities' behalf if we can compile enough cities to come together that the project get big enough. So we're continuing to administer that program in-house at this point, but also please just know that there's a couple of other larger ideas out there that we're part of the discussion with in all of Broward County.
Okay, thank you. Just 2 more items. Any consideration being given to the scooter permits, and where are we with that? And are we going to have to reopen the entire process, or is that coming down the road? I get that question asked a lot of people that maybe don't feel comfortable sharing a car or wanting to be in a car, or they like the idea of that, you know, out in the air type ride, and especially in downtown area. Have we given any thought to moving forward with that program?
We have, and really the champion of that at this point, who's leading it day to day, is Ben Rogers with Transportation and Mobility. He, along with the city attorney, and I can let him certainly weigh in just a second, but he, along with the city attorney, are looking at the process we most recently went through, when that process might in fact expire, and whether or not it just makes sense to make some amendments and open up a new process going forward. So I can ask Ben if he has anything additional to weigh in on there. Here he comes.
Good afternoon, Ben Rogers, Transportation Mobility. No, City Manager, there's not any other updates other than what you just described. I am working with the City Attorney's Office and reviewing Chapter 27 at the program and personal use of scooters.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. Again, I think that it could be done in a safe way and different protocols, but I'd like to at least see that conversation occur. Last item, Chris, and maybe also Anthony. I know this is, we're going to be talking about this item later this evening on Waverly, the Rivermont site, the historic Indian Midden. I've been thinking about this and talking to some folks, and I know we have resources in the city, and the new historic preservation ordinance allows the city to take action. But I really think that this site should have local designation. And I also think that we should use our resources with the Fort Lauderdale Historical Society and others to submit an application for the National Register of Historic Places. It already has quite a good report on the Florida Master Site File, but I think it should have more. And I think that it would add a certain, I think just a great credibility for this being a park site, and we'll get to that discussion tonight. But having an area like that on the National Register of Historic Places just gives it a lot more oomph. And also the local designation, I think, is important as well. Although it is in a historic district already, there were some court rulings in the past that were kind of strange under former city attorneys that said that just because something is in a historic district doesn't necessarily mean that it has local designation protection. So I'd like if maybe we could pursue that and just get some sort of staff input on that. But I think that because of the importance of that site, really the most significant archaeological site that we have right now on the New River, with our nation's first peoples being the Tequesta and also the Seminoles that occupied that site, I just think it could be a great educational opportunity. Obviously, it will be a different type of park, but because of everything that we would probably have to do on that site, to me, it makes perfect sense to have those kinds of listings on the National Register and local. And would we be able to see something like that in terms of moving forward, Chris, with staff resources?
Oh, wait a
or-
minute, wait, Vice Mayor, you're presuming that we're going to move forward and purchase that. That's
No,
presuming.
no, I'm not, no, I'm saying regardless of whether we move forward or not, that site deserves to be on the National Register of Historic Places and also local designation. I'm not presuming anything, Mayor.
So you're saying that we should designate it historic?
Well,
And,
yes,
okay.
I think the site should be a designated historic site. And also I think that we should apply, because there's a lot of information at the state level on the state master site file. I think it also should be listed on the National Register of Historic Places, yes.
All right. Anything else? Vice Mayor, anything else?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, great. Commissioner McKenzie.
Actually, I don't have any report for you. Today, I'm going to make an announcement during the CRA meeting in reference to one of our projects. That's it.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Sorensen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge Breast Cancer Awareness Month is this month, and many of us have been affected by family members by that horrible disease. So just want to acknowledge that. Also, the census deadline, I believe, has been extended to October 5th. Chris, are we?
That was yesterday.
Yep. And yeah, and Chris, we were talking about doing some communication to reach out, texting and so forth. Did that happen?
It did.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Any feedback on that, Chris?
I can just tell you that as of this morning, our number is up slightly. We're at 57%. Still
So
not
we've
as
only
high as I
moved the
would
needle 1 or 2% over
like
the
it.
last 2 months.
At a national level, it's at 66.7, Florida 63.5, Broward County 62.9 on average, and us 57%.
Okay. All right,
Well, to tell you, in the last month, I know that our city undertook, major effort at the food distribution site, at the
robocalls, and
COVID
Facebook
testing
messaging.
site. I know that the census people have been sending their folks door to door. I just find it very unfortunate that we added such a small number of people over the last 30 days, considering the enormous effort that we went through to try to get more people to sign up. But
And we'll
it
keep
is-
going. It's October the 31st now that the deadline has been extended to. And so as I'm looking at the county's stats right now, we're at about 1/3, I guess. There's 2/3 of the cities in Broward County that have had a higher percentage, and about 1/3 of the cities in Broward County have had less of a percentage.
I know, but we really, do
Still
you have any
not,
suggestions, Commissioner, how we can improve our performance?
so I I know Chris was exploring the idea of texting and so forth in terms of engagement. I think in lieu
We
of
did a round of texting, we did a round of robocalls.
Yep.
We'll likely do a final push and do it again closer to the 31st. I have not dug in to know whether or not that robocall and text message campaign that happened a week ago yesterday, whether that was enough to show an increase. But we'll certainly get that message out again in that format. It seemed to reach 46,000 people times 2. So 90 plus thousand people were connected with in one form or another.
Yep.
In that campaign.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Thank
Anything
you.
else?
Oh yeah, we got multiple
Okay.
topics here.
Sure.
Great, thanks, Mayor. Docs are docs when we have someone wanting to install a new dock in a waterway. There's multiple steps in that process. Not only city steps, but there's evaluation by the Army Corps, by FDEP, Broward County, and so forth. It's multi-layered. A lot of times the city steps are redundant, are kind of part of what is already being evaluated by the others. So I just wanted to see if there's interest of asking our attorney to look at how to, kind of increase efficiency. Some municipalities don't have as kind of onerous steps to go through from a city and just rely on the multiple other agencies to do an evaluation. So just want to check the will of commission if that's something we could have the city attorney explore.
Well, I think, Commissioner, that we have requirements that are separate and apart from whatever the state or the county might be looking at. And I would think that we would not want to let go of our ability to fashion a proposal that suits the needs of our community rather than relying on the county to dictate what we should or should not allow in our community. So is someone saying to you that they think the city's application process is onerous?
Yes. Yeah, I get that feedback, fairly often. And the other question I would have is if we're, what my experience has been, just the limited time I've been on the commission, is we regularly grant waivers for docks and extensions. And so if that's a regular practice of the commission, then I think maybe we need to look at it and say, well, why are we regularly doing that? And maybe we need to change our criteria or align with kind of more the state agencies on it.
Well, we in the past, as you know, we submitted a proposal to the Marine Advisory Board to come back to us to see if we could enlarge the distance that would permit a person to extend their dock beyond what we currently allow, and therefore fewer applications might come to the city. They rejected that, and they said, no, we like everything the way it is, and they'd like to be able to review each application independent from the other. Well, as you know, 99% of all those applications get approved by the Marine Advisory Board. So I'm not quite sure what their criteria has been for rejecting anybody, but I mean, I don't know what the rest of the commission feels, but I just feel that we should not let go of that review process when it comes to the city, because there are a lot of people that would love for us to get rid of our restrictions, especially in terms of extending a dock from 25 feet to 125 feet. We have to have control of our waterways, and these are not necessarily criteria that the state or the county care about.
Oh, no, Mayor, I think you're a little bit wrong on that.
Yeah,
The state and county are very much invested in this and evaluate it.
Say it again?
The state and the county are very much invested in this and evaluated, and we can't approve basically anything that that does not meet state and county standards.
Well, that I understand, but they have different boxes that they check than the ones we have. And I would not want to eliminate the ones we have, because I think that the state and the county aren't interested in some of the things that I think help maintain the integrity of our waterways when it comes to, say, distancing out from the wet face of a dock and so forth. Does anyone else on the commission have a comment regarding this? Commissioner, Vice Mayor, you have a lot of your district is on the waterways. Do you have any comment regarding this proposal?
No, I actually haven't heard any complaints or anything from people. I mean, as long as we just keep approving those REVA changes, we'll be fine.
Okay. Anybody else have any?
Okay. All right. Next up, Chris, I'd asked about this, and maybe I was sent something, but I'm not seeing it. The carbon footprint of the city. I'd like us kind of heading towards net zero. Where can you remind me? Do we have that plan in place?
I'll have to get you an update outside
Net
of
zero
the
for what?
context of the meeting.
Net zero for what? Energy consumption?
Carbon.
Oh, carbon.
No,
footprint.
carbon footprint. A lot of cities are very, very proactive. I think we should too. Again, I might be in the minority here, but I think we should have a plan. And how are we going to get to net zero? And how are we doing year by year towards that? Electric vehicles. I think we should look at requiring electric vehicle charging stations at developments of certain size and so forth. I think we should have kind of a clear plan.
I think your proposal has a lot of merit. I know that a lot of developers do it on their own, but I think you're right in saying that we should have a comprehensive plan that's integrated into the development review process so that we know that we're working towards that that goal of trying to have a zero rating. So what
So-
would be next steps?
So
Is
no,
that
I think
something-
that would stimulate a real good discussion, and I think you would be surprised at how many things we already do have in place. So why don't I schedule that for a future conference meeting, and we'll put it together a presentation and let Public Works lead you through some of the efforts that we've already made as a city, and maybe what other opportunities there are to continue on those efforts.
Great, thank you, Chris. Sounds good. Chris, where are we on moving forward with Himmershey Canal core drilling for impact testing?
We've awarded a contract to move forward with the boring of the canal. I do not know when work is scheduled, but I know we've gone so far as to award a contract
When you
Okay,
say the
great.
boring of the canal, what does that mean?
to take samples so that we can do the
Oh,
same
for,
thing.
for pollution mitigation?
Correct.
Okay,
Exactly. Just like what we did, Mayor, with Tarpon River. So
Right.
same. Okay, great. Chris, just for the benefit of the public, the joint government campus, what's next steps and where are we in that process?
are we having a joint meeting in a couple of weeks?
We are. So
I just heard about it today.
yeah, at the meeting of October 20th.
October 28th?
October 20th, 20. We'll have a UDPA meeting jointly with the county. There will be an opportunity for somewhat of a briefing next week if any of the commission desire it in advance of unveiling the design criteria package at that meeting on the 20th.
So what time of day would that be? Since we have a commission meeting that day.
Correct. And it naturally lined up where we and the county both meet that same day. So it will likely be a typical 11 or 11:30 right before we would then move into our 1:30 meeting.
Okay. Does that work for your calendars, folks?
We have circulated that date, so hopefully it's being held on calendars.
Yes,
I-
yep.
I happen to be good, so. I'm good there. Okay, good.
Great, thanks, Chris. Mayor, just want to keep us all updated, the process of exploring ways to remember the horrific incident of Reuben Stacy's lynching progresses in collaboration with the county, our TAM department and so forth. So continuing to look at options. I think one of the leading possibilities is for part of Davie Boulevard to possibly have near where the lynching took place, which is in the city of Fort Lauderdale, to have a kind of honorary naming of Davie Boulevard. So if you look at a street sign below Davie Boulevard, it might say Reuben Stacy Way or some fashion to remember Reuben Stacy. So we're exploring that.
What, is it Davie Boulevard per se that you're referencing, or is there another street?
Davie Boulevard. It'd be Davie
Davie, so like
Boulevard.
a segment of Davie Boulevard.
Correct. Would
Was that
just
near
have,
31st Avenue?
sorry, say that again?
Was it near 31st Avenue?
Yes, it's right around there. Yep,
Right around, okay, all right.
yep.
It was
So just have-
between the Publix and the Winn-Dixie, somewhere in there, not definite in terms of exactly where. And when Ben brought up the idea, great idea.
All right, so why don't we look into that and try to identify an area? And I think that it would be, I think that would be an important initiative for the city. I agree with you.
And since our last conversation about this, I had the opportunity and the pleasure and the honor to meet the grandniece. She reached out to me. She came down from Ohio, spent the morning with me, and shared the whole Reuben Stacy story, the way her mother told it to her. And her mother is some 90 plus years old, still living up, I want to say somewhere between the Florida, Georgia line up Thomasville on that other side. And they have collaborated with the Trailblazers here a nonprofit that keeps the history, and Derek Davis from Old Dillard. They're doing a documentary, and they're publishing a book. So they're on board now to give us some history to go along with the Reuben Stacy story. And he was from Fort Lauderdale, 7th Avenue and 3rd Street, that little short block that most folks in the Black community refer to as Short Third. So there's more to come, and I'm going to share it with Commissioner Sorensen the next time they come down, since he's collaborating on that side. And I think Ben Rogers actually reached out to me in reference to, because we share Davie Boulevard, the both of us, to make sure I was on board, and I'm fully on board. And I think the Davie Boulevard portions that are in the city should bear that name.
All right, very good. So what would be the next steps in that, Chris?
I think Ben Rogers is taking the lead on how we get there.
He is.
And we've done this before on other street namings. If
Right.
it's a state or county road, we got to go through their roadblocks to get their permission. If it's our road, it's easier. I think that's why Commissioner alluded to the fact that you put that honorary piece at the bottom of it. That sometimes is an easier way of getting there when the city owns the road or the street.
All right, very good.
And Mayor, just obviously you're aware of this. There's a cost to that, obviously, because we would replace the signage with a new. If, for example, we did this, it would say Davie Boulevard and then Reuben Stacy Way or whatever it might say underneath. So there's a cost to that. So one of the questions, and Ben Rogers is doing an analysis of this, is okay. What would the cost be, and if we did it? You know, as Commissioner McKenzie mentioned, the entire city, what's that cost, and so forth, and that'll help us,
Right.
you know, to look at options.
We could also ask this, since the county pays for signage, we could also ask them to chip in. All right,
Great.
so we'll wait to hear from Ben Rogers, sorry.
Yep. Sounds good.
Big Ben Rob.
Other Ben. Good. What next topic I have is our sense right now in terms of, my understanding is the governor's order tolling physical requirement for quorum is slated to end November 1st. So I just want to have a discussion. What are we planning on? What happens after that? What could happen? What couldn't happen, and so forth?
So we were really prepared that that was going to end beginning October the 1st. So we really have just pushed back what we were planning on doing by 30 days. As you can see a little bit on the TV today, obviously we've retrofitted our commission chambers with different distance requirements and some sneeze guards and other protective measures so that if in fact we come back to a public meeting in a physical place, we'll be prepared to do that, beginning with your first meeting on November the 5th. We've looked to boards and committees as well, and our liaisons have started to reach out to them because we thought we were going to have to start to bring them together as well. Each one is a bit different because, as you know, the size of the boards and the committees is not uniform across the board. So, you know, Planning and Zoning Board, for example, would have a certain number of members, and then Education Advisory Board, I think, is up to 24. And so, you know, as we start to put those board meetings back together, we'll have to choose the place in which they can meet, that we can meet the distance and number requirement to have a safe meeting. So City Hall is back open as far as servicing our public at utility billing. And so, you know, we've got that interaction happening again on the first floor at City Hall. Beyond that, City Hall is still largely closed to the public. But we will be we'll be ready to go November the 1st with just the meeting space is going to feel different, but we'll be able to meet publicly and together and do it safely.
So Ben, there are plastic partitions around the seating area for each member of the commission. Staff will not be on the dais. They'll be in front of the dais on tables. So there'll be separation between all of us, not just with the partitions, but there'll be a physical distance between us. so that I feel that hopefully that will give us all a comfort level as we're sitting up here.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I have concerns, so we can, kind of, I'll see how it's going once we start getting closer. But we continue to not have a vaccine. This continues to be an incredibly deadly disease, virus. So I still have significant concerns about in-person meetings, but we can keep looking at it.
Everyone is, of course, welcome to wear a mask while sitting at the dais also.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Last topic I think I have is Lauder Trail. So Commissioner Moritas and I have launched the co-chairing of Lauder Trail Working Group, which was wonderful. Good start. We have another one, let's see, this week, actually, I think, Heather. So making good progress. And I think we got all the kind of stakeholders together, and we're making good headway with kind of identifying at least the start to it and getting going. So we'll keep you updated, Mayor, as we're going. Thank you.
Great. Okay, anything further from anybody? I have nothing in particular to report other than to just say that we continue to make efforts to try to minimize the impact of the COVID-19 virus in our community. I've been working with other cities, county, as well as the governor's office, trying to formulate best practices going forward. As you know, the governor entered our state into phase 3. Different counties and different cities are interpreting that in different ways. So we're hoping to secure consistency and uniformity as best we can. We had a mayor's conference call last Friday in which this subject was specifically discussed. And the only burning issue right now seems to be the opening of bars and what their closing time should be. But anyway, we're doing our best to comply with the governor's recommendations and authorizations. And I agree with you, Commissioner Sorensen. We are still in a moment in time which we must all be safe and be careful. So we're doing our best to try to reopen the city and at the same time not put anybody else at further risk than we have to. Our message to the community, of course, is to continue to wear masks when you are in a closed setting, and certainly try to maintain social distancing between one another in any situation.
Mayor, just a question on that as we're starting to think about this for in-person meetings. Would the public be required to wear masks at City Hall in the commission's chamber?
Yes.
And would commissioners be required to wear masks?
Because we are going to be 6 feet apart, it won't be necessary from a medical point of view. But if you want to ensure your own safety, you're certainly welcome to do that.
Mayor,
Yes,
right
sir.
now, from where you're sitting, I went down there earlier. Are we really 6 feet? That was my concern when I went to just investigate. It didn't look like 6 feet to me. And
We're supposed to be 6 feet, are we not?
I suppose I'm saying I went down earlier just to.
Did you
to take
measure
a
it out?
peek. No, I didn't. But you're there now, and you got
Well, I'm
all
good.
those staff
I got
persons there.
space to myself, but I mean, when you all come up
Why
here,
don't you just lay parallel that way and see if you reach over that? Were you 6 feet?
Your
Are you 6
hand
feet
width,
tall?
you can do your width, your hand to hand would be 6 feet. Yeah, 6 feet.
So as we think about this, I'm only saying that when we do go back and everything is okay, I still will feel comfortable with the 6 feet. The plexiglass that I saw this morning, I don't feel safe in that. It's a step in the right direction, but I'm sure we'll keep tinkering with it until we get what we need to move forward with that. And maybe we have to move some bodies off the dais that aren't commissioners to get the space, or I don't know how we get the space. I'm not trying to, throw anybody off the dais. I'm saying maybe we got to figure out how to get that distance since we all are talking the same talk.
Okay, I agree. We'll ask our city clerk to continue to redouble his efforts to keep us safe up here. Okay, moving forward, move on to business one, the Andrews Avenue Bridge lighting. Chris?
Yeah, so Mayor and Commission, this is an update for you all on this public art project. Leslie Fordham is with us today from the Broward Cultural Arts Division. I think she's the public art administrator, and we'll hand it over to her for this presentation.
And Mayor, if I could just interrupt, just wanted to remind us of if we could give a minute allocation expectation, just to try to make sure we're respectful of everyone's time, that'd be great.
Okay.
So let's invite Leslie to the meeting. I see she's off mute. Do we have a presentation to display?
I do have a presentation. I can share my screen. Do you have a presentation there to share?
Yep.
Oh,
Yes.
wonderful. Thank you.
Yes. So before you begin, just in response to the commissioner's question, can we get some ideas to the amount of time you think the presentation will take?
We have a total of 9 slides, including an introductory slide and the same slide at the end of the presentation, and I can be a pretty quick talker.
So we're talking about 10 minutes?
I think we could keep it to 5.
Great, thank you.
Can we do it in 3? No, just kidding. Okay, I think you're good. Please proceed.
Okay, well, thank you, City Manager, for introducing me, and good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. The county issued a call to artists for the Andrews Avenue Bridge project on January 10th, 2020, and 55 artists applied. This was intended to be an improvement in connection with the capital improvement project, the renovation of the bridge that the county is undertaking right now, and it's almost complete. In 2019, there was a charrette in which we had the community members attend, and they provided us comments as far as what kind of public art they would like to see on the bridge. And there was an overwhelming request for artistic bridge lighting. So the location for the artwork is under the bridge, on the piers, on the ceiling, or the underside of the bridge. And the scope of work is for the public art project